Hi everyone, welcome. Welcome everyone. Thanks you for being here today. We're just going to wait just more few minutes to wait for other people who might come, and then we start. Thanks. Okay, I think we can start. Again, welcome everyone, and to the person online and here with us in the room. It is so wonderful to have you here today with us. My name is Sara Lawia. I'm so glad to be here and to host this side event with you. And but before starting, let me give a warm welcoming to our Deputy Director of the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment, Zitunul Dada. And we're really grateful for making himself available to be here today. We all know how hectic is his schedule today, especially giving the week here at FAO headquarters. Thanks also for our panelists here. And before starting, I just want to make a small overview about the side event today. We'll have an interactive session where you, the audience, will be engaged actively with our session. And after that, we will hear from you, your perspective and your solution for challenging in empowering youth in agriculture and empowering indigenous youth in agriculture. But now let me give again the floor to our Deputy Director, Zitunul Dada. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity. Welcome everyone to FAO. It's a great pleasure to be with you here and give you some perspective that hopefully will add more to the energy that you already have in the engagement in what you're trying to do. You know, it's so nice when you have young people passionate about something that you care about, and you really want to make a change. You know, years ago when I was your age, most of you, I can see how that passion and that energy feels so strong. You know, it's something that you really want to achieve. And I can tell you from my experience, you know, where I've been and what I went through to try to achieve that. It's so important to focus on that goal. Yeah, when you have the passion and the determination and the energy, it's really great to follow the dream. And the most important thing is to focus on the change you want to make. Yeah, the things that you really want to see happening. And if you really put your energy on that, believe me that nothing can stop you to achieve that. And that's the most important thing. So when we talk about engaging young people and empowering you, you know, that's what it means. But you have to have something to start with. You need to have something that you really care about, and you need that push, that energy, that involvement to help you realize it. So that's really what you need to focus on. And during this week, at least, I mean, I've seen the engagement of young people in various fora. But here, at least during this week, you have the World Youth Forum, the Science and Innovation Forum, the Hand in Hand Investment Forum. So you're really at the heart of the action and the change we want to achieve. And bring in your perspective of where you would like to contribute and see that change. There is a lot going on, a lot happening, but select what you care about and where you want to make a difference collectively and individually. And it's really critical that you focus on that. It's obvious that for us in FAO, involving young people is critical, because we talk about the transformation of agri-food systems, the future we want, where we want to be in a sustainable, safe, and resilient world. And obviously, you are going to inherit a lot of these challenges going forward. So for me, your engagement at this level now is how we minimize those consequences going forward, working together, knowing that there is a relay. Yes, like when you're doing a race and you hand over the baton to the next person and you keep running. This is what we're doing basically, generation after generation. It has to be a relay. It has to be that connection. So be in the right position, pick up the baton and run with it and hand over to the next ones. You can't drop it. Okay, otherwise you'll be disqualified. And the overall international agenda now in climate change, sustainable development, or other, there is this recognition of the relay. That's what I call it. And what we're all looking for, basically, is what we've been doing as impact to the overall environment and the solutions that we need now so it doesn't get worse, basically. This is what it's all about. And this is what we need in terms of innovative solutions. And from the youth, the solutions you bring, the energy you add to what we have already to drive that forward. So I don't need to bore you with the statistics of young people around the world, and you know all of that. And I think what it matters is what I explained about the empowerment. What does it mean to involve young people, empower them to realize the change we want, and also to bring your perspective of the change we want to see. So there are two timely strategies in FAO: the climate change strategy and the science and innovation strategy. And there are other strategies as well. But the main thing about these strategies is they give you an opportunity to be involved in the change we want to achieve. Yeah. So we identify those opportunities. We propose a place for you to be involved. And in the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment, we also created a youth group. So we get that perspective. And don't be shy about making suggestions. And I mean, you're already actively engaged, but there's one thing that I really love is brainstorming. I like the ideas and people express their thoughts and think outside the box, be creative and bring in new ideas. And I think this is your strength where you come in. So you can challenge the status quo and say, how about this? How about that? Because we need those thoughts for the innovative solutions that I mentioned. Because what we're facing is so big, is so challenging. The world has changed, will continue to change. We have to change. We need a new thought, new ideas, new ways of doing things. There's no way we can continue doing the same things, consuming in the same way, polluting, wasting in the same way, Absolutely not. So I just want to leave you with three things in terms of your engagements where I think you can add even more value and be more influential. The first one, when you ask about you want to be empowered and you want a place here or there, be proactive. Don't wait until you're given the opportunity. You will be given opportunities, but maybe they are opportunities from your perspective that you want to claim. So be proactive about that. The second thing is we empower you to empower others. So think about that connection as well. It's not only one-way traffic. Yeah? The connection is much stronger. Remember the relay? It's much stronger when you take and give and then make the connection much stronger, because then the impact will be much higher. So whoever you interact with, your family, your friends, whoever, take that energy back to them, that change back to them. We all know what it means dealing with climate change and food loss and waste and others, but maybe other people you interact with don't know that. So if you go for a meal or this evening, you engage with friends and then enjoy a meal in a restaurant, that's where you want to transfer that energy so that you influence what you care about. Okay? I don't think anyone here needs to be converted or convinced of what we're talking about. But take that away to others, empower others to do the change that we want to achieve. And the third and the last point is remember that our choices matter. They do matter a lot. Young or older, every choice we have matters for the environment, matters for our health and for the health of the environment. So here there is a sense of responsibility towards the environment, sustainability, and also our health. Don't underestimate the choice we make. If you go out this evening and pick up a drink and there is a plastic straw in the drink, then think about what you're doing, because if you come here and then talk about sustainability and climate change and then you don't walk the talk, is very contradictory. So our choices matter. Anyway, this is all I want to say, to share with you my perspective. So again, good luck. Thank you for being involved in this. Keep engaged, keep in touch, keep bringing ideas, challenge us of how we can help you to help us, because we're here to help each other. And the journey is still long. The sprint is a fast one. And just keep thinking about those connections. So thank you again. And I'm really sorry I have to rush for another meeting. And I'm sure I'll see many of you around. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'd like to give another round of applause to our Deputy Director. So I see that the room is becoming full, so I'd like to invite the participant to take the seat also here, so in order to engage to our next activity. So if you would like to place yourself in there in the table, thank you. Don't be shy, yeah, we have a suggestion from, yeah. And so now we have a really engaging and I think from different perspective we will discuss about how empowering youth in agriculture and the indigenous youth for climate action can also be challenging, but at the same time there are also a lot of solutions and different way to make this engagement with the youth in climate action. We will discuss about that with our panelists here, and we will have a kind of tech talk style presentation, and we will start with the Tecumseh Caesar, sorry for the pronunciation. He is a wampum carver and cultural consultant, and he's representing today the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus. Thank you, Caesar, and please, we just have 5 minutes for your presentation, so thanks.
Kwingwanao, everyone. Ninishinzi Tecumseh Nino Ngiayi Matawak Ni Wilotamewendak Pale. Hello, my name is Tecumseh. I come from the Matawak people, the people of Queens and Long Island. From that, I come from the Matinicok, the Unkachug, and the Montauk, and I'm Turkey Clan. I'm going to talk about accessibility. We are all very lucky to be here today. But when we think about those who are getting left behind, um, there is no visibility for them, and so it's very easy to think about and speak on things behalf of people who have accessibility to avocation tools, but not everybody does. So we did a forum in 2021. And part of that forum, it was an indigenous forum, and we did a forum that we collaborated with FAO as well around a youth food forum. And one of the questions that we asked was about accessibility and what prevents indigenous farmers and youth from participating in the sessions that we had. And so some of my responses to questions around accessibility is going to be talking about that. So I'm not speaking just for myself. I'm really speaking for those who have shared with us. Now, we were really lucky because this was a online forum. And so we were able to access those who were living far away. The main mechanism which GIYC works with is the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. That is where we get the most engagement from Indigenous youth. The Permanent Forum is in New York City, though, and we have Indigenous youth from all around the world, the 7 social cultural regions. So even with that forum, one of the biggest problems that we had is not all Indigenous youth had access to internet. And so there were Indigenous youth who were driving into cafes. They were driving in 2 or 3 hours to participate in this consultation. And it just showed us that, one, they felt comfortable enough to tell us that this was an issue that they had, which often we want to consult our Indigenous youth, but we don't actually talk to them. Having presentations like this is great for someone like myself who has been in the space for a very long time. But if we're talking about nobody getting left behind in the SDGs of the 2030 agenda, these people don't always, our brothers and sisters, Indigenous other brothers and sisters who are marginalized, they do not always know how to speak in the acronyms that everybody else is asking them to speak in. So that's one thing. Another thing is that when we ask for consultation often, or when we're asked for consultation, it doesn't take into consideration, for one, the fact that often we're not funded. And so if we do not have the ability to come and speak with full funding, and when I say full funding, I mean funding that is not just our transportation, not just our food, not just our lodging. Also, if we're leaving our jobs, like me, myself, I am an independent contractor, I have to be able to pay my bills back home. Otherwise, I am hurting my community by being here. That's an important thing. And one of the last things is around cultural protocols. It is often we are asked to come to places, but often the people who are asking us questions never come to our communities. I can tell you, as much as we would like to talk about things, there's a difference when you come and experience it yourself. Come to Indigenous communities respectfully, and you'll build a relationship that is going to have to take time, but it will be much more meaningful. And that is probably one of the most important things. We've worked with FAO for the last 5 or 6 years. We came in 2017, and we have been invited back with our coalition for the Food Forum today, but it was something that took a very long time. So if we're going to prioritize Indigenous youth voices, we should make sure that it's equitable. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Cesar. Thank you for giving your perspective from the indigenous, and I believe that it's really important to actually have a meaningful participation, and also, to have the respect as a common base before starting anything. So thank you. Now I give the floor to Thomas. So Thomas is the president of the International Association of Students in Agriculture and Related Sciences, and he will have the presentation also with Rika Delijanidou. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, so the floor is yours, 6 minutes, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone here in Rome, and also those online. Great to see you all here at this important event. I will talk a bit about my association, EAS, the International Association of Students in Agriculture and Related Sciences. As you can see on this picture, we have a rich history. 65 years ago, we have been founded in Tunisia by a group of students, and back then, they were wearing suits. They were speaking in French. It was the first event held in French. And they were communicating via text machines. The world has changed since then. If we go to a picture of our recent World Congress held in Morocco this summer, you can see that the suits have been changed for t-shirts, and we're now connected via smartphones with a network of over 10,000 students in more than 50 countries. There are 3 points I want to highlight, and I hope this afternoon and this session will be a way to inspire other youth groups here in the room to actively engage young people in the discussions here. 3 points I want to share. That is capacity, advocacy, and action. First up, capacity. Together with the FAO, last year, we signed a first ever agreement to enable capacity further. In this room, we have Yokateme and Brian, who both participated in the Youth for Climate Resilient Agriculture program. We launched this, there were more than 125 submissions, and we selected 8 candidates to give in-depth training. This past year, they had the opportunity to learn from our EIS training committee and got all kinds of soft skills trainings to build out their company. And I've also been actively engaged with mentors from the field to bring their companies further. With success, huge amounts of loans have been brought into projects to really get to a next step. I think it's very important that we create such a platform for capacity, and I invite everyone here to also be engaged here in this and get the capacity trainings via us. We have built this up over the last years. Secondly, something we are working hard on is advocacy, to let our voices heard. And to tell you more about it, Rika will take the stage from the Food and Agriculture Youth Institute.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rika, and before I joined DIAS, I had no idea how much power can one young person hold. Now I'm here with you and the delegation of 11 EAS members advocating for sustainability, climate change, and biodiversity. This passion that youth has is worth being mentioned. This is why we, as EAS, have created FAI. It is the Food and Agricultural Youth Institute, an independent committee aiming towards advocacy for adoption of policies in climate adaptation. By establishing international dialogues with students, experts, and farmers all over the world, we are able to perform research around particular policies regarding flaming issues and publish 2 position papers so far. The first one called Cropping Systems for the Future, drafted at the International Conference for Youth in Agriculture, and the second one called Water Scarcity and Its Effects on Food Security, drafted at the World Congress and also presented to Henk Ovin to be approved. By combining knowledge, science, and policymaking, and by training our members through workshops, we believe we can make an impact to future policy processes, draft more position papers, and try to bring them further at international conferences, such as COP and the UN Water Summit. Holding all stakeholders and parties who have the power to implement change accountable is now our responsibility. In order to do so, we must educate and empower the next generation of agronomists worldwide to act sustainably and support them in making real-life impacts, locally, regionally, and globally. This time, the time to act is right now and right here. We have a chance to define our future. Let's take it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rika. And to conclude, the last point I wanted to discuss here today is action. So besides our advocacy, besides our policy papers, we try to put action on the ground with the limited resources we have. We have countless of projects. On more than 25 locations, we have the village concept projects, for example, where students go back to their own communities, where they know the problems, and where they go with the knowledge they gained in university, but also the knowledge and network they gained via our association EAS, to bring new ideas there, to help out. And for example, we have our own tea brand in Indonesia with our association because of this work. But also our work on women in agriculture, or no food waste, where we will have soon an international conference at Wageningen University, are ways to get people together and bring meaningful solutions for these projects. So to conclude, EAS is empowering young agronomists by delivering capacity building trainings. With the Food and Agriculture Youth Institute, we are putting policy papers at international conferences like COP, being here around and having something to say from those meaningful workshops. But lastly, not only words, but also action at more than 25 locations. Looking forward to hearing what you're all working on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rika and Thomas. Thank you. And also now to conclude our panel, we have the honor of having with us Lynn and Rin. They are two young climate activists and they founded the Middle East and North Africa Youth Climate Network. So please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nice to have everybody here. I see some familiar faces as well. Thank you for the invitation to the stage. So basically, we wanted to talk a little bit about the key barriers to the actual empowerment of rural communities, Indigenous people, and young people. And so, of course, each region is differently. We come from the MENA region, and one of the key barriers is that, sometimes we have a lack of resources to upscale our projects, whether that be startups that support, rural communities or rural communities that want to have an access to education. So any project or startup that we have or any organization, we really are missing a lot when it comes to resources, when it comes to funds, when it comes to the infrastructure to involve these rural communities more. So this point is really important. And to kind of fix this, when we have partnerships with the public sector as well as the private sector and with the international entities, it should be directed to help the young people upscale their projects by supporting them financially, by supporting them with the resources. For example, there was someone in another room who I'm not sure if he's here, but he was talking about an initiative that he started in his university where it was to tackle food waste, and he was taking going to supermarkets, and before they throw their food, they would make an agreement where they would take the food from the supermarket, and they needed to find somewhere to put that food so that university students would take it for free instead of the food being thrown. But he had to lobby so hard in the university for him to just get a room so that he can put the food there and for the students to come and eat it and, take it instead of it being thrown away. So that's why we encourage there to be, the private and the public institutions, whether that be educational or others, to be more, collaborative and to help us with the resources that they have as well as with funds. In terms of other examples of solutions that we have to empower rural communities and youth, so as we said, collaborations and providing, funds, providing scholarships, providing, mentorship programs for the young people. And lastly, in order to upscale, action, we call for mechanisms of accountability. We think this is a very important discussion that is usually missing. So, for example, establishing youth councils or having youth parliamentarians. There are already a lot of youth parliamentarians, I believe, in African countries, but the youth councils and parliamentarians that are capable of decision making, or whenever there's a delegation in these spaces, they should have a young delegate as well. Maybe that should be like a requirement. Also, like the proposal of follow-up committees that can, keep up with the policies being suggested, what has been done so far, what hasn't been done so far. So kind of concrete accountability mechanisms. All these points will help ensure the empowerment and meaningful involvement of young people and rural communities, hopefully. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for listening to me, for having us, Lynn and I. I'm Reem from Iraq. Just as a background of myself, I'm co-founder and executive director of MENA Youth Network. MENA Youth Network is, why did we form it? And it was a lack of representation. We are a rare species in these conferences, and we want to see more of us. We don't want to monopolize these seats, these funding spots as well. Believe it or not, we want more of us to be here. We did hold a consultation session yesterday, and unfortunately, there weren't enough young people to consult. So when we talk about accessibility, as my colleague here mentioned as well, how do we allow this accessibility to young people to be able to be present at the conferences? It's not just giving them a platform, it's facilitating their involvement in this platform. It's not just giving them a seat, it's giving them a step to be able to step onto the seat that may be too high for them to be on. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a farmer, and I wish that in my place today there was someone from my community or from Iraq or anyone who was actually a farmer and who could give you a real perspective of what they are going through. I'm actually someone from a privileged community. My parents left Iraq a month before the American War, and I grew up in the United Arab Emirates. I had a great education, and that's why I could speak English really well, for example. I can communicate to you all. And I feel like this gives me responsibility of, it's a big, we have survivor's guilt. Why me, not them? Why did I leave and why are they there? And this gives me this feeling of, I have to communicate as best as I can. And so one thing I really want to stress on is education, actually. And so because I had a good education, thank God, I'm able to be here, and it is a very big factor in this. And so rural communities in our countries are very disadvantaged when it comes to good education, especially when it comes to rural communities that are dependent on farming, where they usually learn the skills from their ancestors, from their parents, and by working on the field, which of course has a lot of value for them, but also they lack access to the newer sustainable ways and methods of farming. And although back in the day when Iraq used to have vocational schools in a lot of these towns and villages, agricultural vocational schools actually, where it was a high school basically for agriculture because majority were farmers there. This is not as present anymore. It's not widespread in our countries, and so we think that instead of bringing them out of their communities and out of their safety zones into the world to give them the resources, we should bring the resources to them and provide it where they are. We don't have to force these people to leave their communities to get this education or to build upon the education and the wisdom that they have already been endowed with. And so my main message here is give them education and give them the resources to also represent themselves on the international sphere. And these conferences don't have to always be in Europe, or it could be in somewhere that is more accessible to them. Give us conferences in our communities. Make a conference in the MENA region, an international conference where everyone comes in. Why are most conferences in the global north when it's so much easier for people from the global north to come to the global south, and so much harder for people from the global south to go to the global north? So these are some things I wanted to highlight, and I hope everyone takes them into consideration when we think about accessibility, about representation, and then when we consult these young people, how do we implement changes and actions? Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you everyone. I really enjoyed. I was fascinating by all your stories, experience, perspective, and I believe that everyone here and also online have the same feeling. And thanks again. I would like to give you another round of applause to our. Thank you. Okay, so now we will change a little bit. Our side event, as I was mentioning before, will be a little bit more engaging. So we'd like to have an interactive session. I will ask then the first row here if you can just turn to the other row behind you so you can have the session, and we want to hear about from you what are the challenges and what are the solutions that we can face when we try to empower youth in agriculture and also indigenous youth. Now we will have 4 moderators who will come to your groups. You will be divided in small groups, and you will have 20 minutes of this session. After that, you will have to share your solution, your ideas in the plenary, and you will also have one note taker to facilitate the session. Thank you.
So I will be with Florence here. If some people want to join us, you can join us here.
Yeah, and the moderator can just raise their hands. So they're okay. We have 1, 2. Okay.
Let's divide. It's 4, and we should divide people. You want to be with me?
Maybe I can gather all of them. Who's speaking?
Some people left.
Okay, yeah. If they're leaving.
Florence, we stay here? Yeah. Celeste, you want to be with me? Okay.
I think maybe you can stand up and all these
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo is there. Yeah, I'm gonna put Lorenzo. So you can stand up and gather the people.
Yeah. Just sit here. Lynn, Reem, can you join me?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the virtual session. I don't know if you managed to stay with us. We will be with you trying to organize this virtual event. Can you hear me? Can someone write in the chat if you can hear me well? Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. We are also experimenting with this platform. Yeah, no, it's great. Like we will try to make this section as interactive as possible using the facilities of the Airmeet platform. Basically, what we're gonna do is to reflect on some of the main questions that have been discussed so far in the panel that we hoped you enjoyed, and try to get some of your feedback. So to start this discussion, I don't know if you have already attended other events at the WFF through the online platform. Anyways, you can see at the top right of your screen that you have the chat function that we're using now, the Q&A function that Eric has already used indeed, and then you can also access to polls. So just to break the ice, one thing that we would like to do is to start discussing some of the main questions of this presentation through polls, and then we may gather your reflections and debate around what emerges as outcomes. You're also actually invited to take the floor, and to do that, I think you need to raise your hand, actually asks to raise your hand, and we're gonna be able to we're gonna enable you to take the floor and speak. So yeah, before passing to the polls, I just wanted to ask if anyone has a question. Okay, I see there are no questions. So let me try to launch the first poll, which is around our main questions. Like each of the speakers, as you know, may have noticed, started to discuss which are the barriers to the empowerment of rural youth in climate decision making. And hopefully you're gonna see now, like, let me see, show on stage. Now you're gonna have a poll and you can try to vote which are the barriers that you see as major in terms of empowerment of rural youth in climate decision making. So feel free to vote. I think you need to select little dots that are close to the options that you see, and tell me if you have problems in seeing the poll. Okay, that's great. I see that we are having participants voting. We are not many in the online session, which is also something we need to reflect on, because we managed to gather many of the participants at the forum, but we wanted to remain inclusive by organizing also an online session. And it's interesting to see that, yeah, still we managed to, like the World Food Forum communication remains internal to the people attending the event primarily. So I see now that the results are starting to pop out on our screen. Thank you so much to all those that voted. And we see that financial barriers indeed have been individuated by most of participants. Institutional settings still remain a problem for someone, as well as the lack of capacity, while we have 2 votes for the fact that youth is not integrated in the climate agenda, which is also very interesting. Now, I would actually like to hear what is the, like, if possible, for you to write in the chat, why do you think that the youth topic is not integrated in the climate agenda? Because it's very interesting for us to to actually understand these perceptions and feel like understand where like you feel like that international institutions like climate any organization that has to do with climate should involve more in the climate agenda. Do you feel like it's something more at the institutional level, or do you think it's something more at the private sector level or at the associations level? Okay, thanks Ananta for your answer. Do you want to take the floor? Like, you're not obliged, but if you want to take the floor and expand on this networking problem. Okay, no problem, but it's very much appreciated that you share this feedback for you. We're gonna register everything, and out of this panel, we're gonna try to make also a summary document gathering all the opinions that we heard from you. Anyone has something to share concerning the results of this first poll that you can see on the left of your screen? Okay, so we're gonna hide the poll. You can keep on voting. And now we try to go at the second step of what we discussed. That is, which are the potential solutions? For sure, you heard the inspiring words of our director, Mr. Zitouni Uldada, about how we are the ones, since we have the privilege of being in these climate events, we are the ones that in turn can empower others to act for the climate. But at the same time, we heard some of the solutions and the other words by both the two young MENA activists, MENA region activists, and International Agriculture Associations of students. So the second poll is more about the solutions that you may see, and do not hesitate if you have other ideas, like to write that in the chat, because the pre-selected options that we wanted to share with you are just, of course, partial. You should see now the second poll, and please feel free to vote if you can. We see no votes yet. Please, if you can, okay, yeah, no, actually take your time to read properly the questions, because indeed we formulated quite long questions. And then feel free to vote. Also, thank you for your interventions. I'm seeing the chat now. Alhaji and Erika, I hope I pronounced correctly, especially the first name. Yes, it's true that's why we tried to involve as much like youth speakers in this event, and we hope to see more and more in international climate events young people. But it's also true that indeed the most high-level people are our directors, are part of the older generation. So that's for sure one of the issues, and thanks for flagging this, Alhaji. Eric, it would be great also, to discuss more about the problem, the fact that the problem starts at the community level. If you want to take some time to expand on that, that would be also very much appreciated. Do you see the poll actually? Is it possible to start? Okay, yes, we're having now the first votes. That's great. And we can start to see that, capacity building programs could be seen as a solution. So there is, and I guess this goes along with the fact that capacity is indeed a problem yet, also because these international negotiations, etc., remain quite inaccessible, as also our MENA speakers mentioned to most of us, and also in terms of language, like how we speak, how we talk in this forum, like it's not something that is accessible to everyone, and capacities are needed. Traditional local knowledge and empowering local communities. That's interesting that this is getting votes while investing in technological innovation is not. So it's important also to go back at the community level, and this goes very well along with what Eric was saying, I guess. And also the empowering of youth representatives. Okay, that's very interesting to see that someone sees that as a potential solution. Okay, thank you very much for your feedback. Now I'm gonna close this second poll and open the third and last poll, that is instead about the following step. So if we have some solutions that we discussed today, if we have some problems which are identified, then the question is how to scale up these solutions. And this is where we would like to reflect together as a final step of this event, like which are potential ideas to scale up the solutions, because we have a set of solutions and we're trying to do something for climate events, but there is a need indeed to increase and scale up, like what we are doing on a daily basis as youth communities, because otherwise our voice will remain limited, for example, to these events, and will not arrive at the ground level in agriculture and in indigenous communities. So if you could actually share just your opinions by reading at the panel, we're going to give you a couple of other minutes. That would be great. So we would have some collection of opinions from those of you that decided to stay online with us, and that's something that we are thankful for, really. Okay, so larger delegations is something that we are getting. The consultations, okay, I see that all of these options are actually getting quite consensus. That's interesting to see that the votes are actually equally distributed in this case. Okay, and it's also interesting that, yeah, the finance problem remains central, which is something that I think all the speakers, and especially Tecumseh, from the indigenous communities perspective in our panel highlighted. Thank you very much for participating. And I think we're coming back to the plenary in 1 second. Please stay with us, because we're gonna still have like one intervention from a young agriculture student from Benin that will conclude the session. So I will just now close this last poll, hide it from the stage, mute myself, and we're gonna go back in the plenary with all of you. So you will be reconnected to the stage pretty soon. Thank you so much for your participation. And we understand this is difficult to manage these hybrid events, to be involved in a different way with respect to those that have the privilege of being here. So we're gonna try to work to make this process more and more inclusive. Thank you very much again for your participation.